We're going to move into the AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens. We have with an A minus. So, Dobbs, how you feeling about them?
I'm feeling like again, like it's kind of the theme of a lot of few teams and that we've talked about. Just getting really good talent much later than you should have been able to get it. Like Nate Wiggins at pick 30, kind of crazy, but also kind of like maybe we expected a little bit more, but I still actually am kind of shocked it felt like this on draft night. Roger Rosengarten, fantastic upside, fantastic upside. Adisa Isaac at pick 93. I'm scratching my head in confusion how he fell that far. Devontae Walker was somebody that was getting mocked in first round mocks just a few months ago. And you're getting him in the fourth round. TJ Tampa, another guy getting mocked in first round mocks just a couple months ago, if not a few weeks ago. I mean, more second round as the time, kind of went down, but still, regardless, you're getting guys way later than you thought possible. And with your late round guys, you got to feel good about him too, especially Devin Leary as a backup. You know what? I think you're getting good value right there.
I'm a Devin Leary hype beast. So to see him on the Ravens, I might have to buy the jersey. I'm not going to lie. Like, that's just such a raw jersey to have, a Devin Leary Ravens jersey, if he makes the roster. I do really like their draft. The only pick I don't like is Tez Walker. I understand that he, you know, obviously was getting mocked higher, and I'll tell you why I don't like it. Because doesn't he just remind you of the type of receivers that the Ravens already have, where it's just like they just don't catch the ball? Like they're supposed to be so much better than they are, and they just are not. That's why
It's
I don't
funny,
like
no,
the
I
Tez
promise
Walker
you,
pick.
that was the exact same thing I was thinking, which is why me personally,
In the
I'm
fourth is
honestly
fine though. It's in the fourth
when
it's
you
fine.
watch when you watched a lot of the UNC tape, yeah, honestly, I'm with you. You're if you watched a lot of UNC, you're not as surprised that he fell this far. If you didn't and you were just reading the mocks and everything, you're definitely very confused. But I do agree, yeah, like he's got to get more consistent with the hands. And he definitely is very much that same archetype of like every receiver the Ravens already have almost. So I agree with you, a little bit confusing as far as that goes. But hey, they have a type. I guess that's how we got to look at it.
Getting TJ Tampa and Nate Wiggins though, bro, I can't believe that happened. Like, I think TJ Tampa is a much better player than I guess teams valued him. I mean, obviously, I'm not an NFL GM, but just watching Tampa, I want to know why he fell, because I really thought he was a second round talent.
I think it might be something medical or something because no, I agree. Him falling all the way to pick 130 when I thought he very potentially could start going at pick 31, one of the biggest falls of the entire draft, hands down.
All right, anything else for the Ravens before we move into the Bengals? For the Cincinnati Bengals, we have an A minus. I think what I like about this class so much is I just think they did such a good job drafting rounds 1 through 4. I'm not saying that the rounds 5 through 7 were bad, but Marius Mims, potential to be a top 5 tackle in the league if his talent turns out to be what it's supposed to be. Chris Jenkins, great interior pick at pick 17 in the second round. Jermaine Burton, one of my favorite players in terms of what he can do on the field. Obviously, the off the field issues is why he fell. Like, genuinely, if he did not have those off the field issues, very easily late first round, second round pick. And to replace T. Higgins, I think he can do that. Like, I don't think he obviously is going to have the impact T. Higgins has right away, but to be a number 2 to Jamar Chase, I think he has all the potential in the world. And then obviously Eric All, any tight end from Iowa, he's going to know how to block. And it's kind of interesting to me that they spent a 4th-round pick on a tight end, considering they signed like 3 in free agency, which I don't have a problem with. Obviously, you can cut those guys, but I think they had a great pick. Well, they drafted 2 tight ends, actually.
I was going to say the one that really shocked me was Tanner McLaughlin because yeah, no, with exactly where they already have a loaded, not loaded in terms of talent, but that tight end room, someone, a couple of guys are getting cut. So that's going to be interesting to monitor. But no, what you're saying, bro, I agree so much. Eric All, one of those guys who kind of rose for me late. Like I liked Eric All the more I watched Iowa throughout the year, and he was at Michigan these past couple seasons, so it was his first year at Iowa this year. The more I got into him, good tape all in all. McKinley Jackson in the third round, another money selection. I feel like in terms of value, I love that a lot. But yeah, and then there's the first three picks definitely are like the top heavy. What makes this class lean into the favor of why I like it so much. Mims, Jenkins, and Burton. If Burton can just get over the off the field stuff, and I think he came to a team where it's gonna be really good for him, having Joe Burrow around as the leader, I think someone who's gonna be perfect to have around Jermaine Burton. Yeah, in terms of the top side of this draft, you got fantastic value, but even at the low end too, like Josh Newton in the fifth round, you got yourself some good guys. This is definitely a good, well-rounded draft class for the Bengals.
It's so weird because I think Mims was like one of the most predictable picks at 18, but one of the picks that I just didn't think was going to happen. Like for some reason, I just did not think they were going to take Mims at 18. But with
it's because like we said with Joey B and the injuries, it makes it a little bit volatile, and with him and his injuries, it makes it a little bit volatile. But I get it.
They obviously have a type of tackle that they like. Massive tackles. Trent Brown, Orlando Brown Jr., Amarius Mims, all massive human beings, 6'7", 6'8". So I think the Bengals probably got a steal if Mims turns out to be what he's supposed to be, because I personally think he can be better than Fashanu, Latham, all those guys. I think the inexperience just plays a role in where he's drafted.
No, if he becomes what he can be at his size, like he can truly be a top 5 to 10 tackle in the entire league. It's just about hitting that upside.
All righty, Cincinnati Bengals A-. Cleveland Browns we have as a B. I just think here's my thing. I love the Michael Hall pick. Honestly, I think that is one of the best landing spots for him to be able to play in a line with all that talent. Myles Garrett, he already showed that he can be a dominant player at Ohio State. Obviously, he's not going to be on the field every rep. I think that's kind of like a little bit of his issue. But overall, I mean, Zach Zinter, Jamari Thrash, like if you look at the top 3 players they have, it's all like those are just such Browns players, you know?
No, I really do like Thrash a lot too. I think Thrash was one of those guys where you knew he was gonna go a little bit later, but definitely a super high upside. And Zinter too. If it wasn't for the injury, Zinter would have gone much earlier than this. But yeah, Mike Hall, honestly, Mike Hall just carries the whole class because this is one of my favorite landing spots of any player in the entire draft. And another guy where, when we look back on this draft class in a few years, I do think we're going to be Mike Hall. I really think he's going to be one of those guys where we say, how did he slip through the cracks? Like how was he not like considered first round talent? Because the more you watch Mike Hall, you really do see this is a guy with tremendous upside. And he went to literally, like you said, the perfect spot.
And Zach Zinter, like they just love to build the trenches in Cleveland. And if you look at both sides of the ball, like even when their players get injured on the trenches, it's like it makes an impact, but not as much as you would think, just because they draft so well for the depth there, and they do it every year consistently. It's just one of those things that doesn't get talked about enough with the Browns. Obviously, I think the quarterback situation dominates a lot of the conversation, but their lines have been good for a long time.
No, that's one thing you can never question about the Browns. You got to respect it. They're always thinking about those trenches.
Before we move on to the Steelers, I do want to say this about Jamari Thrash. I think with the current situation over there, with the Browns receiver room, Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, who I don't know why the fuck they extend him. It's weird because the Browns do so many things so well, and then they always have like very questionable decisions as well. I think that is just part of being the Browns. But Jamari Thrash has a lot of opportunity to get targets. Like he genuinely can compete for the wide receiver 3 role and even wide receiver 2 if he does take off. Because
I'll say Jamari Thrash might, just like you were saying, he might make them regret spending that money on Jeudy. And I think what I was going to say too, like you're saying, if one of these receivers finds himself injured by some point of the season, bro, I think Jamari Thrash is going to come in and make them say, oh man, we didn't have to spend that money in that area.
Moving in to the last team in the AFC North. As much as this pains me to say, the Pittsburgh Steelers probably had one of the best drafts. We're going to go A. Pittsburgh Steelers had an A. And here's what I will say. I don't hate the Steelers. I can't stand the fans sometimes but I respect them because they're so ride or die for their team, even when it's like every decision is a great decision. But Fautanu, obviously, the injury concern, I think, made him drop a little bit because if I remember right, he has like an ACL that might need to be repaired. But ACLs with the way that they are in the league now, it's kind of like it's not really that much of an issue anymore. But talking about ACLs for another player, I think Peyton Wilson has like one in his knee, like he's missing an ACL. So he's probably a one contract player. But if you look at the top 4 players in their draft class, Roman Wilson, Peyton Wilson, Zach Frazier, Troy Fautanu, you got 4 starters in the first 3 rounds.
You took the words out of my mouth. What I was going to say too, we agree on this completely. Zach Frazier at pick 51, he was someone nuts. I had he's first round talent. He's first round talent. It's just like we say, it's positional value. First round talent, you got it pick 51 for, like you said, somewhere you need an immediate starter. I think Zach Frazier genuinely has a Pro Bowl ceiling. Like, he really does. Like, you got a potential Pro Bowl player in the second round of pick 51. Roman Wilson is literally the perfect Steeler archetype. Like, he is, I know it's becoming the popular name, the anti-Deontay Johnson. Well, he's
the anti-Steeler archetype. He's got no issues. You're not worried about him.
No, that's the thing. The vintage Steeler archetype. Yeah, what they're trying to get back to. And where he's just going to block his ass off. He's going to do all the little things without complaining. Like Roman Wilson to the Steelers, he's a Mike Tomlin guy. There's no doubt about it.
Well, actually, let me take that back. Let me take it back. The anti-modern wide receiver Steelers archetype. That's the better way to put it.
Oh, I know exactly what you meant, though. No, I think every Steelers fan knows exactly what you meant, too.
Yeah.
You know, another pick that they made that I absolutely love, and I think it's kind of slipped through the cracks because a lot of people aren't very familiar with him.
McCormick? But
Mason McCormick is the guy I thought we could see go anywhere from late second and beyond. You got him here at pick 119. I mean, it's just that it's the FC, it's the FBS versus FCS thing. Some people aren't comfortable with how, that the guys are going to make the transition. If they weren't FBS, I think Mason McCormick should be one of these guys that's able to make the transition just fine. I've been harping on this for months. I think you got yourself you even could say 5 potential starters with their first 5 picks. You have to feel so ecstatic about it.
That's the thing, though, is like once you get to the 4th round, like all you want is these guys to be contributors to your team. Like, you're not asking them to be starters. Like, if you look at it as like 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, like you should be trying to get home runs. No, you have a 53-man roster. Only 22 people start. Like, you need special teams. You need depth. You need spot starters. And that's what Mason McCormick can be for you guys. And I love Logan Lee as well to them. He's just another depth piece that they can add to that line.
I was going to say, I wouldn't like for his skill set, I wouldn't like him on a lot of different rosters. And I think a lot of different like philosophies that teams have. I don't know if I would have liked Logan Lee, but Logan Lee is a Steeler. Like, Logan Lee is going to fit on the Steelers just fine, especially playing on the interior. I think they got real good value with Logan Lee right here. He was definitely very niche. He had to fall to the right spot, but he definitely did in the Steelers.
All right, that wraps up the AFC North.